Radhe Radhe. Good morning, good evening to all of you. Welcome to Daily Wisdom from Bhagavad Gita session. Radhe Radhe Nitin ji, over to you.
Radhe Radhe Pallavi ji. Thank you, Madan ji and Sunil ji, for a wonderful session. Radhe Radhe, good morning, good evening, everyone. Very warm welcome to today's Bhagavad Gita session. Today we are going to discuss two rhyming words, Yog and Bhog. And we are going to talk about this shloka talks about sacrifice, and Lord Krishna is talking about what happens if you don't do sacrifice. But then we will also discuss what is the opposite of sacrifice that we so much indulge in, and what happens when we do that. So we will look at it from both angles. So let's get started. We will get started with our opening prayers by invoking the blessings of God and Guru. So let me share my screen and we will get underway. Good morning, good evening again, all of you. All right, so let's get started with our opening prayers. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Radhe Radhe. Good morning, good evening once again to everyone. Let's get started. So today we are on Shloka 4.31. Recite it and you're welcome to follow along. Yagyashishtamrita bhujo yanti brahma sanatanam nayam lokasta yagyasya kutonya kuru sattama. All right, do you have any volunteers?
Radhe Radhe, Ashutosh ji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. Yagyasishtamrita bhujo yanti brahma sanatanam nayam lokosta yagyasya kutonyaha kuru sattama.
Nice, Ashutosh ji. Radhe Radhe.
Sam ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, Sam ji.
यज्ञशिष्टामृतं भुजो यान्ति ब्रह्म सनातनं नायं लोको अस्त्य यज्ञस्य कुतो अन्यः कुरु सत्तमा. Radhe Radhe.
Samji, I came to know you and Ashutosh ji, the winner and the first runner-up today. So congratulations for that. All right.
Payal ji, Radhe Radhe,
Radhe
please
Radhe.
go.
Radhe Radhe. Yagyashishtamrita bhujo yanti brahma sanatanam nayam loko satya yagyasya kuto anya kuru satam. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, very nice, Palji. Nayam lokostya yagyasya kuton
Nayam lokosta yagyasya.
lokostya yagyasya. Very nice. All
Radhe
right.
Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. So these words like kuru sattam, like when it is ma, a, you can stretch it so that the meter fits in, like kuru sattama, Yamaha, if there is a Harlan. So that way we can fit it within the meter. I am also learning the tricks of the trade. So, all right, let's move on. We have
Shyam ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Shyam ji.
Yagyashishtamrito bhajo yanti brahma sanatanam nayam loko satasya yagyasya kuto anyo kuru satama. Radhe Radhe. I went off it.
Radhe Radhe. No worries. All right.
Sandhya ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe.
Yagyashishtamrita bhujo yanti braham sanatanam nayam lokostya yagyasya koto anyah kuru satama.
Very nice, Sandhya. You got it. All right. If you have few more hands.
Sri Ramya ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. Yajñasittamrita bhujo yanti brahma sanatanam nayam lokosya yajñasya kutonya kuru sattama.
Very nice, Sri Ramya. All right. You have few more hands.
Ragi ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Yagyasheshta amrit bhujo yanti brahma sanatanam nayam lokostaya yagyasa kuto anya kuru satama.
Very nice, Pragi ji. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Thank you.
Radhe Radhe, please go ahead. Riya ji.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Yagnashishtamrita bhujo yanti brahma sanatanam nayam lokosya yajñasya kutonya kuru sattama.
Very nice.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Uday ji, Radhe Radhe, please
Radhe
go ahead.
Radhe.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe.
Yagnashishtamrita bhujo yanti brahma sanatanam nayam lokostya yagnasya kutonya kuru sattama. Radhe Radhe.
Very nice, Uday ji. Radhe Radhe. All right. So let's get started. Yagna Shishta Amrita Bhuja. They partake of the nectarian remnants of sacrifice. Yanti go Brahma, the absolute truth. Sanatanam, eternal. Na, never. I am this. Loka, planet. Asti is Ayajnasya, for one who performs no sacrifice. Kuta, how? Anya, other world. Kuru Sattama, best of the Kurus, Arjun. So the short translation for the shloka goes like, those who know the secret of sacrifice and engaging in it partake of its remnants that are like nectar, advance toward the absolute truth. O best of the Kurus, those who perform no sacrifice find no happiness either in this world or the next. Now we are going to focus on the aspect of not performing sacrifice. What is the other end of it? Okay, if people who perform sacrifice and they advance, that is what Lord Krishna is saying. And then people who do not perform sacrifice, very strong words have been used. They say that they find no happiness either in this world or the next. So we're going to focus on this first, and then we'll get to the other part tomorrow, or time permitting today. So let's look at it. What prevents us from performing a sacrifice? Right? That's our problem. And because of which, why do we fall short of finding the happiness that we are looking for in this world and in the world thereafter as well? So let's get started. So Yog and Bhog, right? Diametrically two opposite things is what we are going to talk about today. What is the difference between these two? So let's get started with what leads to us. So our mind and senses, they are propelled by their natural tendencies. Let's start the story from here. I hope all of you agree. Whatever our natural tendencies are, that's where our mind and senses will take us. Now, how's it happening? So the gunas are like the sail. If you are the boat, the gunas are like the sail. They are driving you, propelling you towards a particular direction. Okay. And what is setting the direction, your habits and tendencies which you have acquired. They become our sanskars and they drive us on this journey of life. Like a sail, gunas is driving us, and gunas are basically your tendencies and your habits. Tendencies, habits are something that we do repeatedly or we contemplate upon repeatedly. That becomes the de facto setting of our mind and de facto setting of our senses. If you're fond of chocolate, rasgulla, immediately you see that your senses will lay its hand on it and want to devour it, enjoy it immediately. Those kind of things. If somebody is a kleptomaniac, no matter whether they need something or not, they will pick that thing and put it in their pocket just because they're habituated to doing that. And there was a big Hollywood celebrity, I think some very well-known actress. She didn't have to steal something, but then she was a kleptomaniac. It became her tendency. So she was caught shoplifting. Did she have to do that? No, it was just a habit, amusement that one derives. So that is how powerful our gunas and habits, tendencies can be. Now, what happens because of that? Because of our habits and tendencies? Let's look at that. It basically takes us to indulgence. Now we're getting into first indulgence. Forget about sacrifice. Let's look at the other extreme of it, indulgence. I'll say that, okay, if I do indulgence, that's fine. What's the harm in it? What's the big deal even if we indulge? So let's look at some of the things and contemplate on the fact that is it doing us any harm at all, and if it is doing, what kind of harm it is. Because Krishna is using that people who don't do sacrifice, and the opposite of that is what? Indulgence. That's why they're not doing sacrifice. If it's not sacrifice, you cannot say I'm in a pending state. I'm neither indulging nor doing sacrifice. I'm somewhere in between. No, that means you're enjoying for yourself, right? And that is called indulgence. Now, indulgence can have varying degrees, but we will look at it. Indulgence means lack of sacrifice. So what is it? What can happen because of it? It is a hankering for something. You really want something. Right? That is why you would do indulgence. You will not indulge in something you don't like. That never happens. That is very unnatural. So only when we hanker for something is when we indulge in it. Now what happens after that? Some of the effects, let's look at it. Then the other aspect of it is lamentation. Either we hanker for something or we lament. These are the two things. Even in lamentation, it's a reverse of the hankering aspect of it. You're trying to avoid that, and if you're able to avoid that, you are at least neutral. So these two aspects, either to hanker or lament, they are part and parcel of when we are not sacrificing something. You lament, why? Because there is a sense of losing something or not acquiring something. Now, over time, these two tendencies, they increase. It is a vicious cycle. It's never that what you hanker for, once you get it, you are satisfied in life. It will never happen. Right? Because who had said that? Mark Twain had said, there are only two disappointments in life. The first is getting something you always wanted, and second thing, not getting it. In both cases, you will reach a state of disappointment because what's next after that? So people do get disappointed after a while, right? Otherwise, whatever we thought we will get, once we get it, we should have been happy eternally. But no, after a while, disappointment sets in. What next? What next kind of a deal? This guy, Jim Morrison, one of the big rock stars, at a young age of, I believe, 30 or 32, he had money, fame, adulation, everything at his feet. Okay, big crowd pleaser. People would scream when he would sing. And one day, what happens? He finished off his life. Why? Because he said there's absolutely no more kick. There's absolutely no more kick I can get in life. It's like I have reached the peak. Now the only possibility in life is downhill. And he couldn't take it, and he said, so that is, even reaching there, he had a disappointment. And if you don't get it anyway, we get disappointed, right? So hankering, lamentation are two sides of the same coin, right? The other day I was reading that, in Sunday only you had said, right, मुस्कुराहट को दावत दे नहीं, मुस्कुराते ही तुमने को दावत दे दी, right? What was the other extreme? right? So when you smile, the frown you have already invited indirectly. So that is how it goes. Now what happens? It starts increasing over a period of time. And then the pleasure that you derive out of it, it just becomes a short-lived relief from the self-inflicted torment of constant hankering and lamenting. Okay, it's just a temporary relief. More importantly, indulgence is physical and visible, right? Somebody is enjoying eating rasgulla or whatever, or driving a new car and all that stuff. Hankering and lamenting, it's more at a psychological level where you are thinking about it, you are brooding over it, you are mulling over it. So only people who can have intelligence and a level of self-awareness, they can see how it is harmful, because those effects, the psychological effects of both hankering and lamenting, they are invisible. So the harm that they are doing within you, we look at the kind of harms it is doing. They are invisible, so we are not able to see that. We simply look at the pleasure somebody got by having that trip or clicking that perfect something, whatever they were hankering for. But the process of getting to that state of acquiring something that you are hankering for, and the anxiety, pent up anxiety that they built of not having it, those impacts go much deeper and they are invisible. And that is what we will look at, some of those impacts. Let's look at it in the next slide. They are very harmful. What are those impacts? If you look at it, Bhagavad Gita 18.838 states that through sensual indulgence initially appears enjoyable, it ends up making us miserable. And mode of passion, when it is derived from the contact of the senses with their objects, it's like nectar at first and poison at the end. So we go after pleasure, not after something which is beneficial. And that is where the whole practice of discipline comes in. We seek pleasure, not benefit, because we are not able to discriminate between what is pleasurable and what is beneficial. We simply go after what our senses can get immediate gratification from. So which is called poison in long run. You don't even have to go by the words, right? Your experience will tell you if you think deep about it. Beyond a point, spirituality becomes common sense. It's just that because we refuse to think deep, we say, no, it's not practical. This, and it is common sense. Our own life experiences would tell us intuitively. If you simply think about it, before going to sleep, this is what Lord is saying. Is there any iota of truth in it? You will say, of course there is. That is a fact, actually. My own realization, my own life experiences have told me my time and again, but then my mind tricked me to believe it is happening only with me, and it's happening because of this reason. And if this was like this, I wouldn't have been unhappy. That's your mind playing illusion because of ignorance. So scriptures are removing that ignorance and telling you, no, what you are playing is a losing battle with your senses, and your senses are going to keep on giving checkmate to you time after time. Okay, after every hankering will give you a kind of a reversal afterwards. So let's move on, look at some more reference around it. 18.38, Lord Krishna is talking about that as well. Now let's look at some of the effects of indulgence. You said, no, I'm still going to indulge. At least I'm getting that small drop of honey falling on my face. So what? Even if it is pleasurable. So let's look at it, that so what of indulgence. First thing, it will take you deeper into the material world, because your mind will tell you there is happiness in this world, okay, and which I need to continue seeking until I get that one. So first thing that happens is it will take you deeper into the material world. Now, if something takes you deeper into the material world, is it beneficial for you from a spiritual standpoint? Of course not, right? God is saying that you need to be loosening the vice-like grip that we have for this world. Maya, what is Maya? Basically, Maya, we say, oh, sab moh Maya hai. Maya has taken control over us, and all dosh goes to Maya. So when I think Lord Ram had asked this question to sage Vashisht, right? When God also does Nir Leela, he asks for the benefit of people. Sage Vashisht had told Maya is like, you go, he went on and started hugging a tree. He caught hold of that tree tightly and started saying, leave me, leave me, leave me. So I said, what kind of an act it is? So that is essentially what we are doing. We are clinging on to Maya and saying, leave me, leave me. I mean, you only have to leave it. Maya is not leaving you. Another example that Swamiji gives around that is like that monkey. You know how monkey traps are laid? There's peanuts that are kept in a jar. Monkey comes and puts his hand to grab that peanut. When he grabs it, obviously the hand has become a fist. And when the hand has become a fist, it cannot get out of the jar. Right? And then it is stuck. And it is stuck, and person comes and catches monkey and makes him dance for the rest of his life, right? Madari, they do that. All the monkey had to do was to let go of those peanuts and he was out. Similarly, we are like that monkey. We are not letting go of peanuts and we are blaming Maya for that. So it takes us deeper into the material world. That's first. What else is there? Second is, of course, it's taking us further away from spiritual life, peace, and happiness. If you're in Maya, you cannot, with Maya, it's either or scenario. In case of spirituality, you cannot say, I'm going to get deeper into Maya and deeper into spirituality as well. No, cannot happen. Okay. In one hand, you have to develop detachment. On the other hand, you have to go deeper and develop attachment. In fact, if you develop attachment to God, detachment will automatically happen. But you cannot say, I'm developing attachment to both God and the material things around me. That is not possible. Okay, it's another spiritual principle. So what's happening? Further away from spiritual life. And when you go further away from spiritual life, you are automatically going further away from peace and happiness. Because God is bliss, God is peace, God is happiness, God is joy. So further away you go from God, the further away you are from joy, happiness. Right? That is why we were talking about this concept of who is a bigger tyagi. The person who is choosing joy, peace, and happiness, spirituality, or the person who is choosing lack of joy, lack of peace, lack of happiness, and choosing Mike world. Bigger tyagi are the people who are renouncing God. Okay, if you think about it. So this is essentially what happens when we go away from indulge and go away from spiritual life. Now in 3.39 again, we looked at 18.38. Even 3.39, Lord Krishna is saying that the knowledge of even the most discerning, it gets covered by this perpetual enemy in form of insatiable desire, which is never satisfied, like fire, O son of Kunti. And it is because of our desire we keep on indulging. And then another aspect of it is then you get into the lower forms of life and our hellish planets, because when desire overpowers us, when we seek to indulge something, we don't even refrain from committing or transgressing things which may be counterproductive for our spiritual journey. People don't refrain from even committing sins when it comes to acquiring money or something that they really crave for. And what is the result for that? Hellish sins and hellish planets. Furthermore, if you're not still convinced that indulgence is not good, it is basically fueling your desire, which is self-destructive. And then it is leaving indelible impressions that haunt us far beyond our present lifespans. That is what Lord Krishna is saying. They are neither happy in this life nor thereafter. Why thereafter? Because you are still born with those sanskars. If we have not worked on taming our mind, then those sanskars or those mindset, we will repeat with, and it will continue to torment us like it does now. Right? So bigger tyagis are people who choose Maya, but as a part of that, it becomes indulgence for us, and as a result of indulgence, all of these things happen: karmic reaction, lower life, and further away from peace, joy, happiness. And it is ironical, right? Because we choose Maya to get happiness, but it actually takes us further away from it. And that is the principle Lord Krishna is talking about, even in the shloka. Let's move on. So this is the shloka. Avritam jnanam etena jnanino nityavarina kamarupena kante dushpurenane nan cha. So it is kind of a enemy that we have to be watchful for. The very craving or the hankering that we build over time for material things, we got to be really watchful of it and defeat it with proper knowledge. Now let's look at it. What is happening? There's another aspect of it. When we talk about tendencies, right? These are our senses and they find their vishay or objects. Every person has a different vishay, right? Oh man, you must watch this series. You must watch this thing, right? People say that means that becomes their object of attachment. They derive a lot of pleasure out of it. It could be something that they watch. It could be something that they eat. They become object of our senses. To a point, then those objects start driving you. Now, what's happening here? Let's look at it a little analytically. So we have a higher nature and then we have a lower nature. Which one are we exercising? Let's look at it. The lower nature is something that comes into play when we go for mundane, pleasurable pursuits. Leads to anger, envy, greed, pessimism, skepticism, hatred, and those pleasures, temporary pleasures is what we are going for. However, when we do the other aspect, sacrifice, that or yagya that Lord Krishna has been talking about, we go for beneficial pursuits, not the pleasurable ones, which gives us positivity, hope, empathy, compassion, faith, love, sacrifice, all that stuff comes. So the biggest impediment to human growth is an easier path to a lower goal. And we take that path of least resistance. Because this lower nature, do we have to put effort? No, it doesn't take any much effort. I mean, does anybody have to put effort to become lazy? I had to really strive hard to become lazy that day. No, it comes naturally to us. Anything that takes effort is to swim against the tide. Why do we judge people or form opinions? Because we refuse to think hard. If we really think hard, we'll not judge people. Why do we go for pleasurable things? Because our senses demand it and it's a shortcut, immediate pleasure. Mind says, I'm happy. Now you take care of yourself in long run, but at least I'm happy for now. And all these things are also easy, right? Now, in order to counter greed, pessimism, skepticism, you need to work on yourself. And we want to absolve ourselves from that accountability of working on ourselves. It's hard to, you have to work hard. You have to strive. You have to go against the flow. And because we choose to take the path of least resistance, that is why we are not able to rise above some of these things. Anger, envy, greed, all those lower nature aspect of it. Now, this is not a question. We will come back to that maybe if somebody wants to add on that. So let's move on, have some more content to cover. So let's look at a quick story here. This was an experiment conducted by a scientist, by the way, and it's a pretty fascinating experiment. So once upon a time, there was a rat. I'm sure you would have heard about some of you, especially if you have been listening to Swamiji's lectures. So this rat had 2 electrodes on either side. Okay, and the way this experiment was conducted is on one electrode, there was a carrot or a cheese kept for it, and other it was electric shock. Now rat was, would go on one electrode, it would get carrot, and on the other one, it would get current. So it didn't take rat long to figure out on which side it is going to get the cheese or the carrot and on which side it is getting the current, right? Rat, obviously it's trainable, our minds are trainable and so are rats' minds as well. It understood, and this, as soon as it understood, the electrodes were switched. Okay, now the electrode which was giving the cheese or the carrot, now it is giving current and the other one is giving the carrot. Okay, so now rat again, it took it a while. It had thought I had sorted it out, but then again it took rat a little bit of a while to figure out, now I'm getting it on the other direction. As soon as it figured out, again the electrodes were changed. Okay, so it kept on happening to an extent that rat got completely confused. Where am I going to get cheese and where am I going to get the carrot, the electric shock? Now what happens, as you can see, it was initially trapped, and now the trap itself is gone. However, rat is still oscillating between the two ends. Okay, I'm going to get cheese here, I'm going to get stick here, cheese, stick, stick, cheese, stick, cheese, cheese, stick. Now, if you look at this rat, what would you recommend? What's going on here, and what would you recommend this advice to this rat? Anybody? Yes, I see one hand. Yes, Shyamji.
Yes, Shyamji, Radhe Radhe. Please go ahead.
Yeah, rather than by it's I guess it's our story. We are so engrossed in the material life that we don't see anything else beyond it. So once we look beyond the senses, beyond material things, I guess we are all free. That's the story of our life, isn't it?
Great point. Yes, yes, very true. Let me add more color to it. Let's hear from
Yeah.
Shri. Thank you, Shyamji.
Shri Ramya ji, Radhe Radhe. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Shyamya.
Radhe Radhe. I think the rat should take a pause first. It should look at the room or the scenario. It should see where the characters and go there instead of running blindly. It should take a pause, observe, see what it is looking for, and then go.
Great point. Right, there might be a full garden of carrots and maybe much better waiting outside, right? But it is hung up in that particular, that tube that it was subjected to or caught in to begin with, the cage that it was in. And all it cares for is, this is where I'm going to get something good. This is where I'm going to get a bit of a whack, right? So if we compare it with the hankering and the lamentation that we have, it's essentially the same story of our life as well. Now, rat is not endowed with intellect. Humans are. So God says, go figure out now how to get out of it. So the cage is gone. You just need to rise above this aspect and you're a free bird. Why? For us, the continuum of life is, I want this, I don't want this. I like this, I don't like this. I would be happy if I get this. I will be unhappy if I don't get this. And that continues to be a continuum of our life. And that is the big story around it. Now, rat does not have that benefit of wisdom to understand, but for the rest of eternity, it will keep on going between the electrodes only. Right? That is what is happening to our life as well. Yes, Pallaviji, you wanted to add something?
Sam ji has mentioned, rat, please give up eating.
Please give up eating. Yeah, if rat could fast, still it will be scared of going to one end with the fear that it may get a whack from there, right? So that is the thing. So yeah, great point. So rat does not have that benefit. As humans, we can take decision, we can take pause and figure out, hey, what's going on? Why am I running? What am I running after, by the way? So that is why God said that, okay, to whom much is given, much is expected as well. So spirituality is not a discretionary or a optional thing for humans. It is a must-have. That dimension needs to be added, understood, and with knowledge, we have to rise above these things. So Lord Krishna is saying, now what basically when we talk about the hankering aspect of it, we're going away from the sacrifice part of it, right? Sacrifice is done from a position of strength, where you have a choice and you do it. How can you be sacrificing when you are yourself a beggar in your head, hankering for something or scared of something? Okay, this should not happen. You're not even a perfect good state of mind to do sacrifice. A tranquil mind, a satisfied mind, or a thinking mind, or a peaceful mind can even think about these higher pursuits of life. An ordinary person will simply think about, okay, where can I get my next kick from? Dopamine kick from? Okay, hankering, aversion, that is how our life goes. Only if I can have it, right? Only if I can add another zero to my this thing, only if I can have this. So that process continues. So sacrifice begins after you have kind of settled down in your head, right? But if you are just doing that rat, like that rat, oscillating like that rat, sacrifice is the last thing that will come to our mind. We'll say, let me first have it, and then I'll think about all these philosophical things, so to say. All right, so I hope we are able to drive home the point on this one through the story. Now let's move on. Let's look at the like-dislike aspect of it. Okay. Now in discharge of our worldly duties, we will have to encounter all kind of likable and unlikable situations. That's a part and parcel of life. Nobody can say, I only deserve likable situations. Nobody has the right to say that. It is part and parcel of life. Now we must practice neither to yearn for the likable situations nor to avoid the unlikable situations. Why? Because if we do that, we are violating the first principle of surrender to align with the will of God. Those situations are our package getting delivered to us, nothing else. So you cannot start beating up the postman or say, no, how can this letter got delivered to me? It's your only package that you want. So we need to rise above that with knowledge. Now, when we stop becoming slaves of both the likes and dislikes of mind, we will overcome our lower nature. It will help us overcome our lower nature, third benefit. And when we become indifferent to both pleasure and pain in discharge of our, we become truly free to act from our higher nature. That is when you can start thinking of sacrifice and those higher things. Now we are getting into that higher nature. From our lower nature, we cannot even think about doing yajna, sacrifice, and all the big things that, good things that Lord Krishna is talking about in the previous verse and this one. Right? So it has to follow a chain of thought. And then it needs certain practice which will lead us up to the higher nature, and then we can actually do that. So they are interlinked concepts if you think about it. Furthermore, now if I were to look at the sacrifice part of it, what happens? People perform different kind of sacrifice, austerities for the purpose of purification. What happens with sacrifice? For the purpose, sacrifice purifies. Now, desire for gratification of senses and mind, which leads to the heart becoming impure. Now, if you're doing indulging, your heart is becoming impurer and impurer. Why? Because you are deepening your attachment into the world. So that Triguni Maya will color your mind or heart even more. Antakaran, it will get more and more impressions. And the aim of these austerities is to curtail the natural propensities of senses and mind, which naturally seeks pleasures in material objects. So to curtail that through these practices is actually uplifting and purifying. And when these austerities are performed as a sacrifice to the Supreme, they result in the purification of the heart. This is the principle. It's the spiritual law. And heart is basically the machinery of mind and intellect. You can also call it Antakaran. Antakaran Shuddhi is the only agenda of life. So if you don't do sacrifice, we have seen what happens when we do indulgence. If we do sacrifice, first we have to reach that stage of a higher nature where we understand why sacrifice is important. And if we do that, it will have a purification of our Antakaran, which is the topmost goal is divine love, but this is a great stepping stone to receive divine love, the purification of heart. All right, now let me pose another question for that. Now, bhog or yog, which one leads to rog? Which one leads to rog? Anybody? Yes, Sandhya?
Yes, Sandhya ji.
You are saying something, but we can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
Yes,
now we can.
Now we can.
Okay, Radhe Radhe. Material world rog will come from bhog, but prem rog with God will come from yog.
Both will lead to rog, very true. So bhog and yog. So bhog is basically indulgence that we spoke about, right, in the material world. That will lead to rog finally. Right? It is like nectar in beginning and poison in long run. And yog is basically the yajna or the sacrifice that we do. That will also lead to rog. But yeah, it will lead to a good rog. So that is true. My animation did not work the way I wanted, but anyways. So yeah, the next rog is the realization of God. So in both cases, you are actually getting one rog is good one, beneficial rog. The other rog is not so good one. It is the rogue. There's an English word rogue also, by the way. Okay, we're talking about Hindi rogue here. Very true. So yoga is the way to go, and this rogue is the one that we should go after, realization of God and or the prem rogue if we can fall in love with God. Any questions so far that we have discussed? It's an important topic, so now I'll open it up for any questions that anybody has based on what we have discussed so far.
Samji and Manishji has also mentioned Bhog. Bhog leads to Rog.
Yeah, it leads to actual Rog, and Yog leads to a good Rog. So that's true. Yes, Artiji, please go ahead.
Please go ahead. Artiji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Hari Om. Nitin ji, Swarga Yoni is also Bhog, right?
Yes.
But does it also lead to lamentation?
Yes, it will. Because after becoming Indra, if you become an ant or a pig, you think it's a good state to be in?
No, but it's like we finished one cycle, right? We get another cycle. So why it is lamentation?
It is lamentation because the higher you rise, harder you fall. If somebody keeps you in a 5-star hotel and then all of a sudden sends you to a ghetto living, won't it be a little tormenting for the soul? So, and finally, another aspect of it is those honeybees that we spoke about in that story, right? That guy who's hanging upside down, the honeybees are stinging him on the face while he's trying to enjoy the little honey that is dripping from the top. You have intensified the stings of those honeybees by doing bhog, because now your pravritti tendency, they want more, bigger, better. So you have to unlearn more. So it will give you misery only. The more we indulge in bhog, even for Swarglok, Brahmaji said dam. Dam means restrain yourself. If you won't restrain yourself, it will trouble you. So regardless of which yoni we are in, not yoni I should say, what state of material existence we are in, whether as a devata or as a manushya, daman of our senses is a recommended practice if we have to get out of this material world. If we don't do daman of our senses, we enjoy, we hanker, then it will lead to misery in long run.
Okay, thank you.
No worries.
Kumarji, Radhe Radhe. Please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, Nitinji, Radhe Radhe, everyone.
Radhe Radhe.
I had a question. Of course, we all know Bhog leads to Rog, which we should avoid. Why do we kind of give some special importance to the Chapan Bhog?
Chapan Bhog is not for our enjoyment. So if you go and offer it to God and your eyes are on that samosa and barfi, right? That is not the idea of Chapan Bhog. Now there is a story for Chapan Bhog, by the way. So when Govardhan Leela happened, Krishna actually lifted Govardhan hill for 7 days. Okay, 7 days, for a week. And Krishna used to have Ashtayami meal. Ashtayami means 24 hours has 3 pairs each. 8 3s are 24. So every few hours, Yashoda Maya would feed him. He would eat a little bit. So then she said that my Lala has starved for 7 days, and Ashtayami meal, 7 into 8, 56. So that is where this tradition started. When they came back, all the Brajvasis, they prepared 56 vyanjans to make up for those 7 days that are lost. When we do Chapan Bhog, we are supposed to offer it to God and partake it as his remnants. That is why Chapan Bhog is there. It's our sentiment that God, we want to feed you with the best that we can give you, although it all belongs to God only. And then take it as his prasad. That is the whole idea.
Thanks, Nitinji. Nice story which I can remind myself.
Yes. I know there are a lot of halwai shops in India which are called Chapan Bhog, and we go and enjoy there. But idea is, even when we, in fact, in Gita Shloka, it is said, when you have food, right, you're actually, if you're not having it with the consciousness that it is a remnant of God, you are verily eating sin. Very strong statement. That made me think, for most part of my life, I've eaten sin only. So when you simply enjoy it for your senses without offering it as a prasad to God, we are eating sin. It's a very strong statement, but this is how it goes.
And yeah, exactly. I think it's really strong, makes us think exactly what you said. We have been that sin for a very long time. So that's why I think this again kind of ties to the consciousness eating concept, which a lot of people talk about.
Yes.
Where you don't like watch TV while you're eating or do some work. Many times I'm working on the computer while eating. I think I'm trying to avoid that. Also try eating with the hand.
Very true. In fact, if you eat prasad, right, a lot of people, their journey, my journey also started like that. They go to temple or places, in the allurement of food. Like my Bhagavad Gita session started when a long time back because somebody invited me to their place and I was a bachelor. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, they will do Bhagavad Gita and offer prasad. I said, all right, free food, no worry to eat, cook that day. So that's how it started. But the good thing about prasad is when it is offered to Lord and you start taking it for a consistent period of time, it starts having a transformative effect in you. Okay, a lot of people's journey would have started from some allurement about food only to the temple. So yen ken prakar, and Krishna says you just come. Simply sit in temple. Okay. The transformation will start happening. I'll tell you one more interesting story. I think in one of the Latin American countries, ISKCON people, what they would do is they will take the energy bars, offer it as a prasad to Krishna, and then start distributing on the streets to people. And people would think they would ask something in return, money or something like that. So no, just have it. It's a prasad. Just by eating that, people started having transformative effect, and so many started joining that Hare Krishna movement. So that is the power of prasad. When we offer it to God with love, and we have it as a remnant, knowingly, unknowingly, it will have its transformative effect for sure. So start going to temple. Okay, if you get kadi chawal or whatever there, or go to langar for food, you will start getting purified. Maybe a little bit, but it will start. The transformative effect starts happening for sure.
And just like material food, these sessions are spiritual food for us, right? Again, the same thing happens, like if I'm have a negative emotion or something like that during which I have cultivated during the day. Of course, a little better at that now, but when I come to these sessions and hear the holy word of God, it just melts away.
Yeah, that's a great, exactly. That is satsang, right? What we are doing. So this is satsang, and we are reading Bhagavad Gita, which is like the thing that one can do on a daily basis. So great realization. Thank you. Chirag ji. Let's see one more hand. Chirag.
Chirag ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. So my main question is that what does it mean to sacrifice? Is it like to sacrifice to eradicate the material things or to deal with them more maturely without getting attached to them?
Sure. Are you joining us for the first time, Chirag ji?
Yes.
Okay. All right. We did speak about this topic in detail, basically the kind of sacrifices, dravya, sacrifice, and all that. Where are you joining us from?
I'm joining from Delhi, India.
Okay, great to have you on the session. So hopefully you can join us regularly. Yeah, we did speak about this topic at great length. So just to give you a gist of it, like tan, man, dhan, basically these are three things we say, right? We sacrifice. Now, sacrifice means you have a spirit that you are not the enjoyer, right? So if we have to take a step at a time, we have to understand who we are, first of all. Why should I do that? And what does sacrifice mean? Now, we are part and parcel of God. And the duty of a part is to serve the whole. And even in our artis, we say, tan man dhan sab tera kya lage mera, right? We say that. So the point here is the spirit of sacrifice is whatever I have to the best of my abilities, I will offer it for the pleasure of God. That tweak in our head has to happen, consciousness. And it can manifest in different ways. It could manifest in form of you parting away with your wealth. 10% is anyway recommended in our scriptures. It could manifest in form of you giving your time day to doing volunteer seva, right? Like a lot of JKO volunteers do. And it could finally manifest in form of you giving your mind space to God, where every action that you perform, every duty that you perform during the day, right? Whether it's taking care of your family, earning money, doing your job, doing some creative stuff, you do it to the best of your ability for the pleasure of God. That is a very deep consciousness. All of these are considered sacrifice.
And there is one more problem I was facing recently, that it was very easy for me to getting detached from material things, but it is not easy to get detached from people. So what to do with that?
So you have to go back to the fundamentals of it. Okay, why did you get detached with material things, and why did you get attached with people? Why did you get attached with people? Have you thought about it? Or let's say, why did you get detached with material things? There must be some logic your intellect would have accepted, because of which you got detached. Why did you get detached with material things? Can you explain that?
Yes, I think that material things are temporary, and I was thinking that people are not temporary, they are permanent, and there I was wrong.
Okay.
But still, it is getting very difficult to get detached.
Okay. So yeah, so you are intellectually convinced that material things are temporary, right?
Yes.
Okay. But then you are not able to convince yourself that the material relations that you see around, they are temporary. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
I know they are temporary, but I'm not able to convince my conscious mind. In subconscious, I know that.
True. So that's where intelligence comes in, where you have to prepare yourself and understand it with a deeper knowledge, right? Because even these people, they are not a true sambandhi. They are just roles they are playing, and these people keep changing in lifetime after lifetime. This time you got attached to 2 people or 3 people or one person. One person is good enough to make you repeat in this world. Next time you'll find another person. It's just a relation. It's not the same person that you're getting attached to. So you have to understand your true nati, a true sambandhi is God, who has to accompany you lifetime after lifetime. These people will not accompany you. The final journey we have to do on our own. Nobody is going to come or accompany you at that point. And people will carry on with their lives. Some might take 1 day, some might take 10 days, some might take a month, some might take a few years, but they will carry on with their life. And what you do, what you carry forward in your life is that attachment to that particular role, not to that person. And if you have an attachment to that person, it will make you repeat again wherever that person will go. So with knowledge over a period of time, the dispassion will start happening, but it will not happen automatically. Our mind always needs to attach itself to something. So start attaching to God with knowledge, and that detachment will also start happening. Detachment doesn't mean you will say, okay, go to hell. No, you will look at it from a different perspective. You'll still have compassion, but from a higher point of view. You will understand they are souls like I am. We have a limited capacity when it comes to being able to help somebody, and all of us have a limitation, and at the same time having no sense of proprietorship, which is the fifth principle of surrender, where I say my kid, my parents, my wife, my bank balance, anything, because any of it can be snatched away in a moment. Do we have control over that? No. Anything can be snatched away from us in a moment. So smartness is to be prepared for it, look at things in perspective, as opposed to becoming weak, vulnerable, and derailing our spiritual journey by getting more and more attached to that thing and having that fear and anxiety about these worldly relationships. So with knowledge and by attaching our mind to God, this thing can be neutralized over a period of time. It's a process, because you have practiced this so many lifetimes that there is happiness in this person, this relationship, and this entity. That is why your mind is getting too attached. Now you have to do reverse practice with proper knowledge, and it will start happening with the in due course of time. It's not going to happen just like magic wand.
Thank you. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Thank you, Chirag ji.
Thank you, Nitinji. Very well explained. There is one question from Ganpriya ji. Wants to know, how does yoga lead to rog? Please explain, Radhe Radhe.
Rog, that was just if you look at it, I'm saying your rog means, Sandhya explained that rog, prem rog, love for God. Okay. And the second rog, abbreviation for R for realization, O for off, G for God, realization of God. So it's an acronym, not the actual rog that we're talking about. So hope you got the pun intended in this particular thing. Yes.
Preeti ji, I saw your hand raised. Please, Radhe Radhe, Preeti ji.
Radhe Radhe, Preeti ji.
I think Meanwhile, I have posted the link for the attendance tracker. Please put your comments, feedback, questions in the attendance tracker.
Yes, and we wanted to make a few announcements. I think we wanted to announce about what we are going to do for Janmashtami special sessions as well. And I think there's some time constraints, limitations for the acts that we are preparing, bhajan or presentation. Maybe Sandhya or somebody wants to talk about that real quick. And the announcement. Let me make the few announcements about the Dallas retreat, the Janmashtami event, and the LTP event that are coming up. Okay, so from 18th, 19th, 20th, we have Janmashtami celebration with Swamiji, going to be online as well. Do plan to attend that. Then from 20th onwards, we have the LTP with Swamiji again. It's going to be a wonderful program. If you're in or around Dallas, do please come. It's a life transformation program, and you can actually transform in those 7 days if you simply listen to him intently and make notes and contemplate on that knowledge. And then we have a retreat coming up in Dallas as well. So please plan to make it in person if you can. Online option is always available. If you're on online, get some noise cancellation headphones and just tune into it. Okay, you'll get the same benefit. Okay, you'll just miss the nature walk and some fun activities that we do in person. But other than that, you'll get the same benefit from bhajans and everything. And then we have Janmashtami special sessions we'll do next week. We'll go through the Tattva Gyan of why God descends, who's Krishna. We'll bust some of the myths related to God and his avatar and stuff like that. And also we will have devotional nectar pouring in through bhajans and Krishna Leelas that we will immerse ourselves. And a lot of people have already signed up for it. If you're interested, please put your name. We're going to talk about the ground rules around it. Over to who's going to talk about it? Sandhya. All right, go ahead.
Sandhya. Yeah, Sandhya ji. Please go
Radhe
ahead.
Radhe.
Yeah.
So main two ground rules, like we will have two kinds of presentation. One will be bhajans and second one will be Leelas, Krishna Leelas. So Krishna Leelas, maybe 6 minutes, up to 6 minutes you can prepare for a Krishna Leela, and bhajans up to 3 minutes per bhajan. And we already have 9 entries. So hurry up and fill up the slots, because then we'll just close it so that we can manage all the participants properly.
Yeah, I wish we have so many participants that I have to find a slot basically for the knowledge session. Okay, then I'll fill up. Okay, I want to do a knowledge presentation as well for 5 minutes. But great, please do come forward, and it'll be nice actually for those 3 days.
Yes, I've posted the link for that activity. Yes. And one more quick announcement is about Raksha Bandhan celebration at RKT Dallas. It is going to be on August 11th from 5:30 p.m. onwards to 8:30 p.m. There will be Aarti and Rakhi celebrations at the temple. So do take advantage of it. Go enjoy Raksha Bandhan at the temple.
Thank you, Pallaviji. And Aarti ji, you had another question. I saw your hand raised and then you put it down, but you're not allowed to put it down once you raise it. So just checking.
Aarti ji, please raise your hand.
Please raise your hand.
Yeah.
Thank you for raising your hand.
Thank you, Aarti ji. Please go ahead.
Hari Om, Radhe Radhe again.
Radhe.
Nitin ji, my question is, offering and sacrifice are both same?
Offering and sacrifice are both the same. Like, give me an example. What are you offering?
Like, no, like we say ईश्वर अर्पण बुद्धि, तो हम अपने हर दिन का कार्य कर्म ईश्वर को ही अर्पण समर्पित करते हैं, right? But when you said sacrifice, is it not like कि हम कुछ अभी जो regular like indulgence basis में जैसे लड्डू खाना पसंद है, पर अब मैं लड्डू नहीं खाऊंगी, very sharp curtly, तो is it sacrifice is that? Can you say?
नहीं,
What exactly is difference?
आपको लड्डू खाना छोड़ने की आवश्यकता नहीं है. आप लड्डू भगवान को खिलाइए और बोलिए आपके प्रसाद की तरह मैं खाऊंगी. That becomes sacrifice at that point, right? Your consciousness is changing, and then laddu yeah. So basically, offering is not a one-time statement where whatever you do during the day before going to sleep, you say, Om Sarv Krishnaya Samarpanam Astu, and then you say, okay, I offered everything. Doesn't work that way. It has to be an ongoing consciousness that you inculcate. That Krishna I'm doing it for your sake. Okay, please help me so that I can perform to the best of my abilities. And then you offer the fruits to him. You don't start thinking about the results, that okay, only if this thing happens, Krishna, then I'll be happy, otherwise I'll not be happy, otherwise I'll complain. Okay, you just do it as an act for his seva, and then the stress will go away. So some of the symptoms of whether you're offering your act to Krishna is, are you getting anxious? Are you thinking about the results? Does it make you unhappy if you don't get favorable results, right? Are you doing it to enjoy yourself, or always you have at the back of my mind that I have to offer it to Krishna and then take it for myself? So these are some of the things which can lead us closer to sacrifice in our head. Krishna is not asking us to stop doing anything. All he's saying is just tweak your consciousness around the acts that you do. I hope that
Can
answers.
you give an analogy, like, or any example of what exactly is sacrifice and what is offering?
Offering, I think there are
Offering, I
times.
got it. I got it. Like how in the back of my head I'm offering it to Krishna. But what is exactly then sacrifice?
Sacrifice is where you are refraining yourself from indulgence. Okay. Now, I'll tell you one simple example. Let me think about it. So, let's say something happens, which something very favorable happens that you were always desiring for. Okay. First of all, you shouldn't be desiring, but let's say something happens that intuitively, you would have made you happy. At that moment, rather than throwing a party for yourself or for your friends, you simply have a silence gratitude towards God, that thank you, God, for giving that. There's no harm in having a party as well, okay? But are you expressing gratitude to God, or you are choosing to ride that moment all for yourself? That I did it, well done. That itself becomes a sacrifice if you simply say thank you, God, for that. And let's say something happens which in normal course you would feel, how could this happen? How bad it is. I wish this would have happened. Then that is also not sacrifice. Then the equanimity, practicing equanimity is also sacrifice. So Krishna is not saying you start giving big things. He's saying start tweaking your mindset around it. Another sacrifice could be you are parting away with your wealth to purify it. That is also sacrifice. Another sacrifice is you are engaging yourself in seva. You are giving your time. Time is money, time is life. You are giving your time for act things other than for yourself alone, right? Like so many people are doing seva, right? So that is also sacrifice. Another kind of sacrifice is you are giving your mind to God when you are doing sadhana for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour. That is also sacrifice. Another sacrifice is when you are giving your time to these sessions, when you are doing Gyan Yagya, you are doing an intellectual sacrifice. They are all forms of sacrifice only, right? And you're offering your time there. So offering your time and it becomes sacrifice. So both becomes kind of synonymous in that way.
Okay, thank you. Great explanation. Thank you so much. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Thank you, Arti.
Nitinji, there is a question in chat just related to RTG's question. Sri Ramya ji has asked, how do we know if desire is for God or ourselves? For example, I'm cooking something for God, but subconsciously I'm preparing it for my family and myself as well.
That's an advanced stage, but we have to slowly inculcate that thing, right? Initially, it will be for our family. All of a sudden, it's not going to happen. Krishna, I'm preparing it for you. So you start building that consciousness gradually. It will start becoming that. Eventually, it will come to a stage where you'll say, no, I cannot have it until I have offered it to God. It has become your consciousness. And then gradually, you can actually take it to the next level and say, hey, this food God cannot have because we prepared it 2 days back, so the frozen food I cannot give to God. So those things will automatically happen, but we have to start at some point, and it's not going to happen right from the word go, right? It will happen gradually. So we are cooking for our family, but let's bring into the mix, we'll offer it to God also, and then gradually it starts becoming better and better with time, and then it becomes a part of our life, and then we start offering it to God and taking it as a prasad. So it's going to be a gradual journey. We've got to be realistic about it.
Thank you, Nitinji. I can take a couple of hand. Surendraji, Radhe Radhe, please.
So all of us are doing sacrifice. Okay, so let's congratulate ourselves. Rather I should say thank you God for that, not congratulate.
Radhe
Radhe Radhe, Surendraji.
I read that slide your slide today, Bhog leads to Rog. That is true for Hindi. If we write Bhog and Rog in Hindi, that is true. Yog to Rog is what is good in English. That's realization of God.
Yeah.
And the other thing I wanted to share with all the participants today, that to live in present is also indicated by this 2022. If you add your age to the year of birth, you are to the present, 2022. Anybody in the world, add your age to the year of birth, you arrive at 2022, and that will happen only 1,000 years later. Radhe Radhe.
So there is a mathematics behind it. Surendraji, I'll share that with you. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. If you do that.
But the indication is that let us live the present. That's the point.
2022, yeah. Great point. Thank you.
Thank you, Surendra.
Radhe Radhe. Yes, a couple of other hands are there as well. Okay.
Swati ji, yeah, please go ahead. Swati ji.
You are chanting time already. Yes, Swati ji.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe. Just now the topic that someone asked about sacrifice, no? There was one story of the squirrel in that Rajaswi Yagya, that squirrel, when she went to somewhere in that poor family, it was in hunger for many days. And when he got some food from somewhere, and when Atiti came, then they gave their food to them, even though they were hungry. So the one by one guest kept on coming. So the first father gave, then the mother gave, then the son gave his food, and then the daughter-in-law gave their food, even though being hungry. So that is the sacrifice, I think.
True.
Radhe Radhe.
Yeah, squirrel said Dhik Yagya, right? So that is how that Krishna said, okay, go ahead and check it out, because one of its side had turned golden. That's a nice story. Very true.
Yeah.
Sacrifices where you are willing to feel a bit of a pinch. But sacrifice can happen in so many ways. See, the very fact that we are reposing our faith in Krishna's words and reading Bhagavad Gita is also intellectual sacrifice. So it can be, and you are giving 60 minutes of your day, right? More than 60 minutes, if I include bhajan and other discussions as well, which is a big part, right? Time is money and time is life. So when we are doing it for a cause which is related to understanding what God had told us, that is also a big sacrifice. And every sacrifice purifies. That is the spiritual law. It will have its effect. It will give its result, and we will be better off. There is no doubt about that if we continue doing it.
Beautifully said. Smita ji has also mentioned in the chat, sacrifice is giving your ownership right.
True. Yep. Yes, Kumar ji, are you going to sing a bhajan today?
Yeah, are we going to sing bhajans?
Yeah, chanting is how we wrap up, and I see Payal ji is there today.
Radhe Radhe, Nitin ji, I will take up the challenge some other day, and I'll prepare for it so that I won't trouble people, right? But on the offering side, reminds me, like I try to, and many times I forget. So usually I have some post-it notes in front of my computer for other things. I think I need to have one in the kitchen as well, because when I start cooking itself, I want to remember God. But I remember in my house back in India, whenever the food was made by the ladies, they used to keep some food in front of God and also some food for the crows, right? Okay. So this is basically offering for God and ancestors. And what a nice thing. We used to go there and call for the crows, and we'll initially, I think my grandfather and all those people never used to eat if the crows didn't come. So it was their firm belief of
something there. I don't know why. Yeah, I mean, I need to understand that part a little more, but yeah, we offer it to birds in general. But yeah, I mean, there must be a good reason for us to believe that our ancestors have become crows. So, or maybe there is some theory behind it. But yeah, that's true for God, and then for Pitris also, people keep it aside. That is also sacrifice. That is true.
And when we think of that in that way, right, that we are making it for God, we won't think of cooking as a tedious job as well, like for any other task as well, materialistic task.
Devotional, yeah. So Kumarji, I've heard that you're planning to come to Dallas and maybe moving to Dallas, and then you are not too sure about which path you should be taking. So you come here and, we basically make you a bhakti yogi all the way. All your doubts will be laid to rest, okay, once you come to Dallas here and take a trip with us of the city.
I'll surely take a trip. This has been in my mind for quite some time.
Sure.
Thank you for the invite, Nitinji.
Look forward to meeting you. Hopefully you can make it on our retreat. So
we'll try for sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Joanji.
Radhe Radhe, Joanji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, thanks for taking my question. Okay, so this word sacrifice confuses me a lot, because the way I see it is, if I'm doing something out of love because I want to do it, I see that as a good thing. But what I'm understanding is that you must feel a pinch of some sort in order for it to be considered as a sacrifice. So like, for example, and I had asked Swamiji this question before. I had said that, I help out in our temple. I do whatever I can to the best of my ability. And I take joy, it's pleasurable for me. Like, I take great pride in doing. I'm glad, I'm happy that I have the opportunity to do it. So I don't see it as a sacrifice. I see it as something that I want to do to help. So is that considered a sacrifice, or is that not considered a sacrifice? I don't see it as a sacrifice, but yet I'm being thanked for my sacrifice. And I don't want to see it as a sacrifice. I want to see it that it's my love for helping out and my love for God for wanting to help out.
No, so yeah, that's a good point. So it is for starters or beginners, where you start doing that, right from day one. Not everybody's inclined to part away with their time, other than socializing and stuff and giving it to temple and activities which are other than yourself, right? So if you're feeling love, then obviously that is also a sacrifice, but you don't have to feel it that way. It has become part of you and gives you joy. So it doesn't mean you have to feel the pinch. When I said that, it is for the beginners to start off with, because now you are forcing yourself to do something. But once you start, when you fall in love with God, then it's no longer a sacrifice. It becomes part of you.
Yeah, it's like an automatic thing that I want to, like, I can't sit still. I can't see somebody struggling to do something and me not helping. Like, I want to help and I want to pitch in. I have to do it. Like, it's just, it will nag me, it will bother me to see others struggling, and I'm there, capable, willing, and wanting to. So I just do it, and I don't see that as a sacrifice. I just see it as part and parcel of me.
Yes, understood. That is a great sentiment, and that's how a devotee has a sentiment. From a God standpoint, it is still a sacrifice for him that you are doing. Okay, I'll tell you a story. Krishna was asked that you gave Golok to Putna, who came to kill you, and you gave Golok to Yashoda Mata also, who took care of you so nicely with maternal affection. And Krishna says, for Yashoda Maya, I'll be eternally indebted. So for him, every act, even though Yashoda Maya, you think she was doing a sacrifice for Krishna? No, she was doing it out of love. But God is so, indebted for a devotee sentiment that from his standpoint, you are doing a lot for him, even though you're doing it for love. So for people who are starting off on this path, it may come across as a sacrifice. But after a while, when you're on a path of devotion, it's no longer a sacrifice, it's part of your life. So you're perfect.
Okay, thank you. That helps to clarify this concept of sacrifice. It does. Thank you so much.
Yashoda Maya comes back to Krishna and said, no, I loved doing it. Why are you eternally indebted to me? From God's eye, he said, no, I am. For him, it's a big deal, right? So she did not say that, Krishna, you need to be indebted to me. She was taking care of him like a mother with a lot of love. But from that standpoint, it's a big deal. So whatever time you are spending out of love, it's a big deal for God, right? So from a scriptural standpoint, that is still a sacrifice.
That's great. That's great to know. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Radhe Radhe.
Thank you.
Radhe Radhe.
Thank you.
Down to our chanting time then. All right, let's take a few hands and wrap up our session with some beautiful chantings and reciting God's name.
Palji, Radhe Radhe. I think somehow I don't see her now. Can you please raise your hand one more time? Yes.
All right, 3 hands. Good.
Yes.
Sandhya,
Radhe Radhe. Please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe.
Yeah. So today let's have chanting of Jai Radha Madhav, Jai Kunja Bihari. We all can do it together.
Good.
Yeah.
Jai
Jai Radha Madhav, Jai Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhav, Jai Kunja Bihari. Jai Gopi Jan Vallabh, Jai Giridhar Hari. Jai Radha Madhav, Jai Kunj Bihari. Yashodanandan Braj Jan Ranjan, Yashodarandan Braj Jan Ranjan, Jamuna Tir Banchari, Jamuna Tir Banchari. Jai Radha Madhav, Jai Giridhar Hari. Jai Radha Madhav, Jai Kunj Bihari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Radhe Radhe.
Beautiful, Payalji. Very nice. I wish you can come to one of the retreats.
I would love to, Nitinji. I would love to. I'm just thinking for that time to arrive.
So when you will be singing, there will be a line of people who will be crying. And when they will be singing, you will be crying. That much I know. So
I really don't know how am I controlling myself here in this session. I mean, only I know. Yeah.
we can
Thank you so much.
sense
Radhe
that.
Radhe.
So very nice. Very nice.
Radhe Radhe.
Always a pleasure to hear you. Thank you so much. All right.
Yeah. Ashutosh ji, Radhe Radhe. Please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Ashutosh ji.
I will sing a little bit about Guru Mahima kind of thing today. Guru Charan Kamal Balihar, Guru Par Tan Man Dhanwar, Guru Charan Dhur Sirdhar, Guru Mahima Parampar. यह है भव सिंधु अपार, नर देह नाव अनुहार, नाविक सद्गुरु सरकार, गुरु महिमा परंपार। जो समझा दे श्रुति सार, उर भरा प्रेम रिझवार, सोई है सद्गुरु सरकार, गुरु सोई कृपालु सरकार। गुरु चरण कमल बलिहार, गुरु पर तन मन धनवार, गुरु चरण धूरी सिर धार, गुरु महिमा परम्पार। Radhe Radhe. Thank you.
Radhe Radhe. Very nice, Ashutoshi. I think you should
Yeah.
get dholak or a harmonium as well now. That's your next milestone. We'd love to
Actually,
hear
I'm
you.
trying to play dholak in Hyderabad Sunday satsang, little learning.
Wonderful. We'd love to hear you that way. Very nice.
Yeah,
Well,
lot of applauds from people in the chat
very nice,
for
Ashutosh.
Ashutosh ji and Payal ji both. Yeah.
Beautiful. All right, we have a few more hands. Let's take that.
Yes, Sandhya ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe Sandhya, go ahead.
Radhe Radhe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll start. श्याम मेरे श्याम मेरे श्याम मेरे प्यारे, श्याम मेरे श्याम मेरे श्याम मेरे प्यारे, श्याम मेरे प्यारे, मम स्वामी सखात, श्याम मम प्रिय प्यारे, श्याम मम स्वामी सखा सुत, श्याम मम प्रिय प्यारे, श्याम मम प्रिय प्यारे, श्याम मेरे श्याम मेरे श्याम मेरे प्यारे, श्याम मेरे श्याम मेरे श्याम मेरे प्यारे, श्याम मेरे प्यारे, तुम मेरे थे हो रहोगे, है भरोसा प्यारे, तुम मेरे थे हो रहोगे, है भरोसा प्यारे, है भरोसा प्यारे, श्याम मेरे श्याम मेरे श्याम मेरे प्यारे, श्याम मेरे श्याम मेरे श्याम मेरे प्यारे, श्याम मेरे प्यारे.
Very nice, Sandhya. Who would believe that you just started 6 months back only, and now Maharaj Ji's bhajan also. So very nice, very bhavpurn singing. Loved it. Thank you so much for that. Great. We have 3 more hands. Yes, let's we take those. It's a good way to. I think we can wrap it up in the next 5 minutes then.
Please go ahead, Radhe Radhe Swati ji.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe. I'll sing only 2 lines. प्यारो लगे नंद लाला, हमें तो बड़ो प्यारो लगे, प्यारो लगे बड़ो प्यारो लगे, प्यारो लगे नंद लाला, हमें तो बड़ो प्यारो लगे. Thank you, Radhe Radhe.
Beautiful, very nice, Swati ji. What and sweet. It's a very nice bhajan from Maharaj ji. All right, 2 more hands.
Sam ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Me? Oh, me? No, let Surendra ji go.
No, your
I'm
hand
here
is
to announce winners. Oh, I'm here to announce winners.
Oh, winners.
Oh, you are
Yes.
here to announce winners?
Yes.
Ramji is self-proclaimed judge for the evening.
Yes.
All right, yes.
Yeah. Okay, let's hear.
Shyamji has made. So after listening to bhajan, Shyamji has also, raised hand. So yes, I'd love to hear you. And Surendra ji, please Who do we want
Radhe Radhe Prabhu.
to go first? Yeah,
I don't have that rhythm in my throat. I'll just read out.
Sure.
तू ही सागर तू ही किनारा, ढूंढता है तू किसका सहारा, सबसे जीता तू अपने से हारा, ढूंढता है तू किसका किनारा, ढूंढता है तू किसका सहारा, तेरी आंखों में ही उसका हतारा, ढूंढता है तू किसका सहारा. राधे राधे.
Very nice, beautiful, Surinder ji. Thank you for lending your voice to this beautiful composition. So thank you very much.
श्याम जी, राधे राधे, प्लीज go ahead.
राधे राधे. आप सबके सुनने के बाद मुझे भी ये लगा कि मैं भी भगवान के लिए गा सकता हूँ. मेरा एक थोड़ा प्रयास है. लेट मी ट्राई. ओ पालनहारे निर्गुणो न्यारे, तुमरे बिन हमरो कौनु नहीं, तुमरे बिन हमरा कौनु नहीं, हमरी उलझन सुलझाओ भगवन, हमरी उलझन सुलझाओ भगवन, तुमरे बिन हमरो कौनु नहीं, तुमरे बिन हमरो कौनु नहीं, तू ही हमको हो सहारे, तू ही हमको हो सवारे, तुमरे बिन हमरो कौन नहीं, तुमरे बिन हमरो कौन नहीं. राधे राधे.
Very nice, Shyam ji. Beautiful. So you took courage to come, and that was wonderful. See, this is the what do you call that? Inspiration is so infectious. I'm sure you would have loved it as well. So we certainly did. So I'd love to hear from you more often. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Thank you so much for that. All right, Kumarji, you wanted to do that real quick? I know we are on.
Yeah, no, actually, I'm not doing the bhajan today, but I'm going to take up the challenge. But the bhajan which I'm going to practice for will be best if, once I say it, it's repeated by other people. So is that a challenge which other people can take?
Sure. Game on.
Okay. Thank you. Radhe Radhe.
All right. So are we good for the closing prayers then?
Let me announce the
Samji
winners.
wants to say something. Yeah.
Yes, Samji has to know.
Yeah. Winners of today are Payalji for beautiful song and also for singing very nicely, Ashutoshji for glorifying Guru, Sandhyaji for singing lovely Sham song with lovely tune, Swati Bankarji for very short song, Surendraji for Wah Wah Shairi, and Shamji got debut award. Surprisingly, everyone got awards.
Wow.
Kudos.
Yeah.
Very, very nice. Loved it.
Beautifully said. Yes.
All right, Samji, and you get the award for the best judge of the evening. Okay, let's do our closing prayers then. It's a good way to end the session. So very nice.
We are ready.
Thank you. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukha bhag bhave. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Thank you, everybody. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. We'll continue with our discussion and another engaging session. So stay blessed. Have a wonderful evening and a great rest of your day. Radhe Radhe.
Thank you, Nitinji, for another awesome session.
Happy Rakhi Day for all of you.
Happy Rakhi.
Happy Raksha Bandhan to all of you.
Bandhan.
And have a blessed
Today is
day.
the Purnima in India.
All right. Happy Rakhi to everyone.
Those who are into Amarnath Yatra, they are having the darshan today.
All right.
Wow.
Very nice.
Thank you,
Okay.
everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Radhe Radhe.
We will see you tomorrow. Radhe Radhe.